When the Canon 10-20mm RF L for luxury series lens was announced, as an architectural photographer / mostly real estate, I was super excited. I just wanted to pounce on that baby like it was my wife on our honeymoon.
You're a monster.
Hi, I'm Jared Hoyman, a real estate photographer here in Northeast Wisconsin. And if you're interested in any of my stuff, you can check out visibletour.com. Yeah, I got a website. I'm special. But if you're interested in my work, who I am, my background, that's a good website to visit. And in the future, we are going to be having courses on there on real estate, introduction to photography, and introduction to video. Yes, I think everybody should learn video, even the basics with editing. And obviously, I've told you on this channel that DaVinci Resolve has won my heart. I love it, and you will love it too, because I will make you love it. Now, full disclaimer, I don't have the 10-20mm because I didn't order it. I canceled my order. I don't have the 10-20, but here is the credibility that I have to talk about the 10-20mm. I have the 14-35 f4, I have the 15-35 f2.8, and they are sharp lenses. Their optics are amazing, and by the way, I will be having an optical versus with each other coming out hopefully later this week, so stay tuned, subscribe, like, because that video will help you decide which one to go with. They're both good. Just gonna let you know that. Sorry, that was totally ADD. But just to let you know, I am familiar with L-series lenses, especially with the RF mount. And so if the 10-20mm is anything like the 14-35 and the 15-35 optically, then this is an amazing, beautiful, awesome lens. You can't go wrong with this optically. And if you want 10mm, that is super wide. I mean, that is wider than Weird Al in his Fat video. That's how wide it is. I sometimes have to look up stats. I don't memorize everything. I have to go on websites too. Just give me a break. So the angle of view at 10mm is 130 degrees. Now, to give you an idea, the human eye is about 100 degrees. And just to stretch it a little bit, the 14-35 at 14 is 114 degrees. Now that 114 degrees is practically your peripheral. You can see peripheral about 114 degrees. You just can't see it very well. It's not focused. Now, obviously you're getting 114 degrees focus. Now, 130 degrees, super wide. And if you want to get an idea of how wide that is, we'll go even wider. The 7 Artisan 9mm, which you can check it out on the video that I did a few weeks back, because that is ultra wide. So this thing is absolutely wide. 10mm, super wide. 14mm is very wide. So I've been shooting 14mm for the last several weeks in all my real estate jobs, just because I have to get an accurate view if this is a good lens to switch from the 15-35. And I will tell you, 14 actually hits it pretty good. You get a good peripheral of what the human eye, plural, we have 2 of them. Some of you may have 1, maybe none, I'm sorry. Just listen to my voice and believe what I tell you. You will get a good peripheral that's accurate at 114 degrees. Obviously, you can't see this perfectly in focus, but the 114 degrees of the 14mm will. The 10mm, and to get you a better idea of the 10mm, you can watch the 9mm of the 7 Artisan video that I did. That thing will get tons of stuff that's just not naturally in focus. Now, here is one of a few reasons why this lens, this 10-20mm, does not make sense for real estate photography. 10mm inside of a home, looking at a room, will give extreme distortion near the edges. So if you are looking at a table, or if you're on the edge of a table, that table is gonna look super elongated. For example, I did the 9mm 7 Artisan inside of a real estate listing. I did it in the bathroom, and that counter was probably maybe about 5 feet or so in width, and it probably looked like it was 15 feet. It was ridiculous in its view and its distortion. 14 millimeters and 15 millimeters can also do that. There's a fuzzy. I have ADD, but it is not as extreme. It's more of a realistic view, and you do watch out for those edges. With 10 millimeters, you cannot get past that, and it ultimately does not make the image look that good. Where 9 millimeters and 10 millimeters could look awesome is a vast, amazing landscape, or even a ginormous building like a church, a cathedral, because now you're capturing a lot and you want that huge space. But the average home, 10 by 20 in a master bedroom possibly, depending on where you live, and bathrooms are 5 by 8, you are making those rooms look so distorted. Even though it's a rectilinear where the lines are straight, it's not fisheye, it's still giving that elongated view, and it just doesn't look good. Yeah, Jared, we already know that. We know it's a 10 millimeter, it can go really wide, but it goes all the way to 20, so you can hit all those sweet spots. Really, when the distortion starts to get a lot less is at that 12 millimeters, and ultimately you're probably gonna be already at 14 and 15 millimeters when it comes to interior photography of these real estate properties. The other problem I have with the 10 to 20 millimeters is that it's 20 millimeters. And I did not think that 20 millimeters was gonna be a big deal where it cuts off, because 20 on the wide end is still pretty good. You're starting to get a little zoom in. After I did the pre-order of this lens, I was getting excited and I thought, okay, I better start to adjust my whole shooting and get used to only doing 20 millimeters. So I had 5 shoots in one day, and I decided I am going to restrict myself from 14 millimeter to 20 millimeter and not go beyond. And I thought that's gonna be so easy, which it actually was. I stuck to 14 millimeters to 15 in that realm, interior the whole time. It was perfect. I didn't have to do any zooms. I didn't even have to go to 20 millimeters most of the time. I kept to that 14 to 15 millimeter, and I thought, wow, this is awesome. But it wasn't until I got outside and I realized a lot of the framing that I do, I am at 20, 24, and even 35. And when it comes to real estate photography, compression does tell a different story when you're doing exteriors of houses, and that 24 to 35 is very crucial. So if you had the 10 to 20 millimeter, you would have to have another lens at 24 to 35, 24 to 70. The other thing I forgot to mention is I photograph a lot of Airbnbs. When it comes to Airbnb, people want to see coffee makers, ovens, things that are very detailed because they want to make sure, well, I'm going to stay here. It's got to be comfortable. So I am zooming into 24 or 35 millimeters, and I am capturing all of that to show those details. And at that 10 to 20 millimeters, you aren't necessarily able to get that close to it and show those kind of details. And again, that's where the 14 or the 15 to 35 does come in and is more versatile. If you're a real estate photographer or an architectural photographer, you are gonna find yourself switching out lenses if you have the 10 to 20. You're gonna have to go beyond 20 to 24, 35, and depending on the detail and the distance you're looking at some of these architectural pieces, especially if it is like a cathedral or if it's vaulted ceilings and you wanna show details, for example, you're working with an architect, you're gonna have to get zoomed in a lot more. You know that old cliche, time is money? Well, swapping out lenses is time, and therefore you are losing money. I am in and out of real estate properties anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, and switching out lenses and making sure everything's good. Plus, if you get dust on your sensor, you're like, crap, I have to take that off. Well, that's time wasted too. You want to keep that lens on as long and often as possible because then you're not introducing dust particles onto your sensor. Now, let's just say you really, really want that 10 millimeter ultra wide look because honestly, it does look pretty cool. This is the solution I would do. I would have the 14 to 35 or the 15 to 35 RF, and I would do the 7 Artisan 9 millimeter. And then you have that option of ultra wide for those specific cases, because don't forget, this lens is $2,300 USA, super expensive. And I'm sure if you're in another country, it's probably even more. Can you imagine? I've spent $2,300 on my well, not quite, but almost $2,300 on my 15 to 35. And on that super awesome sale that I just brag about all the time, my 14 to 35 was $850. I mean, amazing. And the quality is exceptional at the f4 and amazing at the f8. So you're gonna spend $2,300 on a 10 to 20 millimeters and also need something from that 20 to 35 range. So 24 to 35. It's just extra things that you may not need if you have a 14 to 35 or a 15 to 35. Now, I understand that the 7 Artisan is 100% manual focus, but when you are at 9 millimeters and you put it to infinity, it's in focus. It's all in focus. Put it at the f5.6 it is, or up to f8, and everything is gonna look super sharp. Now, I will say that if Canon watched this video and they wanted to prove me wrong, well, I'm all for it. They can send me the lens to review. I will give it back, maybe. And I would be more than happy to do that. But from my assessment, from my needs, I have found the 14 to 35 or the 15 to 35 to be the best option. But what do you think? Your workflow could be a lot different than mine, and I would love to hear about that below. Did you order it? Do you own it? Did you pre-order it? Are you regretting that? Or not? Maybe not. Maybe you're really excited about it and what I just said didn't do anything. But what I will tell you is that there is an image quality test of the 14 to 35 and the 15 to 35 coming out hopefully later this week. And you will be narrowing down which one is best for architectural photography. And I will have my opinion on that. Now, I did want to tell you that I did pre-order the 10 to 18 millimeters RFS lens and will be using and testing that out on my Canon R7, which would be the alternative to the full frame version of the 15 to 35. It's actually a 16 to 29 range, equivalent to full frame. So that should be an awesome video. So don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to see more content on these crazy lenses because they are fun. Also, if you want to check out that 7 Artisan video on the 9 millimeter, that is right there. That was an awesome piece of hardware. I would check it out.